and welcome to On the Payroll, my podcast about project management, consulting, project delivery, Salesforce. It's actually season 2. It's the first episode of season 2. I didn't think I would get this far, but I've had a great time talking about really interesting things with people who are as passionate about the topics as I am. This particular episode, we talked to Liz Rhodes, who is the COO of Art of Cloud. And another one of my favorite topics is testing. So we geek out on this topic. But not only that, but I discovered the fact that she's actually won investment on Dragon's Den. And she has had a successful business. But I won't steal her thunder. I hope you'll listen to her story, and I hope you'll enjoy this as much as I did making it. Well, hello there, Liz. Welcome to my podcast called On the Payroll. How are you today?
I'm very good because it's beautifully sunny and I've been out for a run and started my day with an amazing run down the canal. So feeling very, very happy this morning.
Good endorphin hits. Just very quickly on that, how often do you run?
I'm trying to do 3 days a week. I'm doing generally 2 on the treadmill, 1 outside, because I am training for a half marathon, supporting a local charity, Zarak, which Art of Cloud have been involved with for a while. And May the 8th is the big day. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Get myself around.
I will make sure to air this before May the 8th and help you raise the funds that are for the charity. Fantastic. Okay. So Liz, you are currently the COO of Art of Cloud, and what I'm really interested in is your journey. So if you can just tell me a little bit, just tell us a story of how you got here.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. Well, it interests me a lot. I did a food and nutrition degree at Manchester University. So nothing to do with technology, but then I went travelling and spent 3.5 years travelling around the world. I was doing teaching as a second language in Singapore. I went working in Australia and kind of started in a bit in tech there. I was working in the back end of the casino, looking at the statistics of how player statistics and looking at the algorithms about why people play and what times they play, and then started to become a nerd, basically. Love statistics, love data, and then came back to the UK. I actually had a role lined up in the Ministry of Agriculture on their graduate programme. This is 22 years ago. So I went down to live in London in the interim and got a temp job at an IT company. And I was just the receptionist, it was an important role. But there I started just talking to the people and talking about their roles. And basically they just offered me a job. They were just like, you're obviously interested in this. What would you like to do? What are you good at? And I was like, well, I've done some statistical analysis. And so I started as a tester for a software house. Went and did my ISEB, did some courses on testing, and worked there for 10 years, working my way up. And by the end,
Sorry, because I love testing. So I'm just going to pause you for a minute, and I want you to tell me a little bit more about what it is you were testing.
Oh, right. So it's like double nerd. Like it was insurance software, so fintech. Insurance software for Lloyd's and non-commercial Lloyd's and non-Lloyd's commercial insurance software. So big packages, like very interesting industry for a young girl from the north, like surrounded by a lot of it's a very male-dominated industry. I think there was maybe 4 women when I started, the receptionist. Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 of us, not many, but absolutely loved it. Just loved getting to. It's the user experience for me and understanding why you want it to be smooth, and then the data and the positive testing, the negative testing, the regression testing, the automated testing, and managed to. During my time there, we started really basically because it was quite a young company, and it grew from, there's 30 of us when we started, and when I left, was like over 200. It was amazing. And so I started in the testing role, then became the test manager, then became the ops manager, and then spent 3 years going back and forth to India, setting off an offshoring team. It was quite novel then, to be fair. It was kind of, when offshoring at that time was mainly call centres.
Yeah, correct.
It wasn't. We set up a support development test team out there, which was fantastic. And I just love that experience. I'm a real people person. I love talking to people, love finding out what they do and working out why they do it and what are their problems and what are their barriers and how we could improve it and all that kind of thing. So it was like in my element. So
fantastic. If you allow me to just expand on that. So you set up in operations out in India for support development and testing. Talk to me a little bit about the challenges that you have had and how you overcame them.
Doing that, well, the challenge was we had to get a team of, I think it was about 80 up and running within months. So there was like myself leading it from the UK based company, and then my counterpart in India, Sanjay, who's brilliant, and I'm still in touch with him now. And we were like, how are we going to get all these people up to speed? And then we came up with this plan of like this big training plan of what was core, and then like a little pathways. And so that was the biggest challenge, getting everybody up to speed quick enough. Secondly there's always the kind of normal challenges with offshoring, the culture, the time differences, the making sure that everybody understood the problems and how to solve them, and that were just communication. It was the key was communication, and making sure the teams felt able to communicate. And at that time, offshoring wasn't as common. And so there was still that element of, oh, is this a threat to my job? Is this? And so it was like appeasing, like, and making the team in the UK understand it was an extension, not a replacement. So there was all that element of change management at this end to manage, as well as kind of the actual practical side of getting the team up and running in quite a complex area. But we did it amazingly, and it was really successful. So much so the Indian company ended up buying the UK company.
Whoa. Okay. So just extending on that thread a little bit. If someone were to say, Liz, I would like, or Art of Cloud, for example, I would like to set up, we should set up an offshore team in Albonia, which is fictional. What are the top 3 things you would tell your leadership teams? These are what we absolutely need to get right if we want this to be successful. Let's say top 3. What would they be?
Clear expectation of what you want that team to achieve, what their role is, where the boundaries are. Manage the expectation. 2, communication. Make sure it's easy, it flows, it's constant, and there is no doubt. And I guess the 3rd is trust that people want to do the right thing. That's ultimately, everybody is doing their job because they believe in it. And like, I'm massively into authentic leadership, which we can talk about in a bit. But it's like, if you trust people to do their job, they will do their job well. But if you start micromanaging and hovering and stuff, it can put some people off. So ensure that the team you're working with, the team you're setting up with, know that you trust them, that you believe in them, and that it's a positive relationship from the start, and they feel part of it, not just like a them and us situation. Does that all make sense?
That's perfect. That's perfect. I think a lot of what you're talking about resonates so much with me, which is around setting expectations, communication, and trust, because that's the thing that kind of lubricates a lot of the processes, be it setting up a new offshore team or just running and scaling and growing.
Yeah, or any project. Ultimately, if the comms aren't there, if you don't feel like you can have a conversation with your equivalent on the other side of the project, then you've got an issue, because you need to be able to say the good, the bad, and the ugly, don't you? And deliver that message and be very honest with them. So I think for me, just creating those relationships is like so important, and that's part of why I feel my team is really successful, because I really encourage them to say the worst somebody can say is no, or that they don't agree. The world is not going to implode if you say, do you know what, this isn't going to work for you as a business, and this is why. They might disagree, but that's then their decision, but at least you've done your job by saying it. So I think the trust and openness is such an important thing to me, rather than just everybody saying yes to everything.
Amazing. Allow me one more question to geek out on test arena. So just going back to the testing functionality, how do you, in the consulting world that you and I inhabit, testing is seen as second cousin?
Yeah, because it's seen as an expense, unnecessary expense, and that's not new. That's something I've always experienced, because it's not tangible, is it?
Yeah.
But it is tangible when something breaks, and so it's that value of putting the time in. We put a percentage of time into every project for testing, and we do peer testing. And then, I mean, because I'm a bit obsessed about testing, because I love it, I'm like, you do first pass testing with your stakeholders, and then we do UAT testing, but we do peer testing before it goes to UAT, and then we do iterations of UAT, and then we go live regression testing, making sure it all still works. But that's because I've got 10 years, 15 years experience in testing, and therefore I can bring that to the table. I understand why people go, oh, well, just let it pass. But it's that thing of like, it's fine until something breaks, isn't it? So yeah, how to get to believe more in it. They do believe in it, but I don't think, if you're an end user and somebody says test the system, that's a big ask, really, isn't it? Because they will just do their job per se, won't they? They'll key in their contacts and their opportunity, but they don't know how to trigger the automations. They don't know how to trigger the flows. They don't know how to kind of negative test it to make sure that it doesn't trigger at the wrong time. And that's our job. And one of the things we do in the project is talk about those user journeys right at the start, saying, how are you going to test the system? Because that's going to be important to the success of the project. How are you going to know that this system is doing what you need it to do? And we help them build those user journeys from the beginning of the project. So,
what do you mean when you say peer testing?
So if somebody's done some code, we just, like, I'll jump on it sometimes. If it's something, we just get somebody else in the team, fresh pair of eyes. Everybody obviously tests their own work, going, oh yeah, that definitely works. But obviously you can always take the path of least resistance. Whereas if I jump on it, or another consultant jumps on it, our test, we've got a full-time tester now, which has been a growth thing, actually. For us to invest in a full-time tester is quite unusual in a consultancy to be of our size, but it's an important thing to us for our credibility. But yeah, getting them to just run through it as the user would, as the user wouldn't, and just make sure that you're testing those boundaries.
Fantastic. So just following from that, when you say of your size, so can you just tell me about how big?
We're up to 17, so we've got, I was number 3 out of Cloud, and we've grown year on year, doubled year on year for the last, I mean, it's a really young company. We've just had our 4th birthday from the date kind of inception, and I joined 3 years ago as employee number 3, and yeah, we've grown, and team of consultants, developers, and as I say, we've just got a full-time tester to our team.
So you said you've got 17, are all 17 delivery team?
No, we've got sales guys as well.
Okay.
We've got a sales team, we've got developers, we've got consultants, we've got financial systems consultants as well, project management systems, PSA consultants, myself, Ben, who's the CEO, and then we also have like an office manager who does all the making all the magic happen of making all our lives easy. So yeah, it's like a growing, we've gone 100% year on year. It's been amazing. And I'm such a nerd. I literally sent Ben a message on Monday going, I just love my job. Just gonna tell you, I love my job. He's like, you're such a nerd, Liz. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel grateful that I can just genuinely go, I love my job. Obviously there's hard bits and there's tough days, but day to day, I love doing what I do. And like, who'd have thought this whole world of Salesforce, I've been in it 5.5 years, and who'd have thought that that's where I would end up from where I started?
Indeed. After that really long detour, let me just take you back to.
I'm stuck to waffler.
No. It's all super interesting, because they all touch on what makes you, what makes you so effective at what you do now. So there is a particular point that I'm waiting for your story to get to, but I'll let you get there in your own time.
So worked at the insurance software company, then went on maternity leave, and then I interestingly set up a baby goods company called Ruby and Ginger. And this was just an idea with a friend. I would say one of my strengths is just finding solutions to problems. Just anything. I'm quite good at finding a solution. Might not always know how to make the solution, but I'm quite good at going, I've got this idea and we could maybe do it this way. And that's one of the things that is one of my strengths. And then in kind of day-to-day work, and then I'll go, oh, can one of the developers help me flesh that out into reality? But this was a conceptual thing of okay, I don't want a massive bag on my back. And so we created this thing called the mini changing bag as our first product. And then we created some other products. And we managed to get ourselves in House of Fraser, Mothercare, went on Dragon's Den in Ireland, which...
Tell me about the product that,
So the first product, it was a little tiny mini changing bag, like this big, fits inside your handbag, and in it there was a wipes case, a refillable wipes case, and a little tiny changing mat. So you just put it under the baby's bum, so you could be anywhere, lift the baby's bum up, change the nappy, all fits in your handbag. Perfect. So there was that. The second product was a safety product. It's called this was our second main product, Cozy car seat cover. And kids aren't supposed to wear big puffy coats or snowsuits in their car seats. Loads of people doing it. But if there's a crash, that air goes out of those snowsuits and, like your puffer jacket, the air just goes. And so you're left with a gap. And you can see videos on YouTube and stuff of they do it with dummies in crash test situations. And the gap is not, the babies aren't secure. So this is like a cover that goes over the size 0 car seat, and it's thermal and it keeps the baby warm, and it's got a space for their face, obviously, so they can breathe. But it just created like the foam packed of a sleeping bag. You've got the air keeping warm, and then and it just meant that they were safe and their harnesses are tight, and you could use it outside or you could use it inside. So the massive learning curve, designing products, trade marking products, looking at manufacturing products, bringing them over from we manufactured in India, then we manufactured in China, and then we went bigger, and then we had to design our own fabric, things like that. It was just, when I look back, I was like, oh my word, how did we achieve all that? We went to trade shows, we were featured in Danny Minogue's book, we were featured in newspapers. It was amazing. Went on Dragon's Den, which was crazy. We went on the Irish version because my business partner at the time was Irish, and we just thought, do you know what? Why not? Why don't we give it a go? And then we're suddenly looking at each other in the studio going, how have we got here? We got investment, interestingly, from a lady called Nora Casey, who owned all the women's magazines, who was our ideal dragon because she owned the women's magazines in Ireland. Her business did, should I say. And so we got editorial in there, we got advertising in there. So it was all very exciting.
Yeah.
But the retail margins are small. If you're selling wholesale to retailers, they take the chunk, 2.4 markup. So on a £20 product, you might get 7, and then you've got your costs, you've got your shipping. If you deliver a day late, they take money off you. Working in that, it's designed for much bigger companies than us. And so the margins were quite tight. And it was we got to this point where my business partner wanted to move back to Ireland. And I was like, we had to have to commit £100,000, £200,000 each into kind of the stock to to get the volume discounts and to be able to do that, or we just go, do you know what, we've achieved loads, let's just go out on a high. So that's what we decided to do. And we I forget how much I learned. I don't talk about it very much. I don't know why, because you can perceive it as a failure because we decided to close it, but it could have been loads bigger. But at the time for us, it wasn't the right thing to do. We didn't have the big volumes of money to invest, and we still had young children, and so we just thought, do you know what, let's walk away knowing we've achieved masses. And like, I was putting all the stuff in the loft and I was like looking at all the articles going, oh my God, look at us. But you forget, don't you? You easily just move on to the next thing. But all that experience of dealing with worldwide people, the supply chain, having to pitch to buyers at John Lewis, having to pitch to House of Fraser. I'm like, how did I have the confidence to do that? But you just find it, don't you? I guess. And that kind of has built me to where I am now, of just going, do you know what? Give stuff a go, because you can always go backwards. You can always go, actually, it's not right for me. And that's the experience I had. It was right for me for a period of time, and it was brilliant. But it got to the point where it wasn't right for me. And actually saying to yourself, that's okay to say this isn't right for me right now, was very, very hard emotionally. But actually now, look at me now. As I said, I love my job. And I wouldn't have been who I am now without having gone through all that. So, yeah.
I think 100% though, as you're telling the story, I'm just following the, like an Apprentice or Dragon's Den, where you've got cameras following you. So as you were talking, I was just imagining watching the documentary in my head, and I'm thinking, what a great story. And especially as you say, I'm looking at profile. That's 8 years,
yeah,
almost 9 years that you've spent building the brand, putting your heart and soul and blood, sweat and tears into bringing this to market and creating something so amazing. And the courage to step away, as you say, when you decided it's just no longer enough for the both of you, especially when your partner wanted to move back to Ireland, and for you to say, hey, let's end on a high. Not very many people would do that, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I don't think we give it because at the time it was like very emotional. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. But talking to you about it, I can see how good it was. But at the time it was like, oh God, it's a failure, we failed. And it's like, we hadn't failed at all. We'd achieved masses. We didn't come out of it as millionaires, but we came out of it with amazing experience and amazing skills, really. So many skills. We did everything. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm very creative. Again, come up with an idea, drawing it, designing patterns, designing brands, logos. Yeah, we did it all. It was amazing. But I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't still be in that world because it wasn't right for me then. And this is right for me now. So I'm a massive believer in twists of fate.
What a great story. I mean, do you go to parties and go, hey,
I don't. I genuinely, I probably not even everybody in my office knows that story, because I don't shout about it. And I probably should shout about it because it's a massive achievement. And actually, if I think about my own children, girls, and going, if I played them this video, they'd be going, oh my God, because they were so young. I didn't realise you did all that. And you're like, why don't we shout about ourselves? And that's something actually, since I've been joined out of Cloud, Ben and I have talked about authentic leadership and being true to yourself, and by working on that aspect of myself, actually it allows me to acknowledge that what I did was amazing, and don't pretend it didn't. Don't hide it, because it's not a failure. And so that's really good.
Absolutely not. I think, well, what a great story. I mean, lots of people can watch Dragon Den and go, oof, I could do a better job. Oh, look at that. And my thinking is, you are here and they are there, and you don't see all the hard work, sweat, blood, and tears that's gone into not just building it up, but standing up and pitching on TV.
On TV to a bunch of people you've never met, and all the kind of process to get to that point, being chosen, being whittled down, being auditioning, all that kind of, like, you have to go through quite a rigorous process to get to that point. They have to believe in you, you have to show all your numbers, you have to show all your, validate everything, and you're just like, gosh, God, we were really good to even get to that opportunity. And we got some investment. Again, amazing. Yeah, I'm kind of sat here thinking, you should give yourself so much more credit, Liz.
You should write a blog about it with pictures and link to a video if there is a link public. That would be amazing. Wow, fantastic. Right, going back to your journey, how did you get from there to here?
To here. So after Ruby and Ginger stopped, I kind of interestingly just took some time where I was literally doing loads of bits of stuff. My husband was working away at the time. He's like a project manager for a big construction company, program manager. They're building stuff on the railways. And so we needed something that worked for us as a family. And so I did exam invigilating, I did wedding catering at my friend's company. I just went and helped her on a Friday and Saturday night, things like that. I'm a right people talker, as you've probably guessed. So I absolutely loved it. But it was just, do you know what? I'm just going to do anything that fits in with my life, that brings in some money for now. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then I went to work for Orion, which is a local backup, data backup and restoration company. And I went in to just do some ops work for them, part-time, 15 hours a week, and that's where I met Salesforce. And loved it. Loved the fact it was so configurable, user-friendly, looking at what you could achieve with it. So yeah, I worked there just contracting briefly. They just needed somebody to go in for, I think it was there 9 months, something like that, not long. Just go and just help them. And that's where I started doing my trailheads and started getting back into the data stuff. It was all for me, like the reporting and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is fab. And so yeah, that's where my Salesforce journey started. Then my kind of contract was coming to an end, so again, twist of fate, looked on Indeed. First job I saw was Art of Cloud, and they were just looking for somebody to join them as their kind of first employees, as Michael and Benny were the co-founders. And I was like, I just rang Ben and I was like, this is why you need to hire me. I didn't even send a CV. I was just going, basically, I'm super organised, I get stuff done, I'm really good at solutions. I'll grow with the company, I'm happy to work part-time, I can see you're a young company, and then grow with the company, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, went in the next day for another interview and then started the next week.
Wow. It is, you, just listening to you, it feels like you're someone who's quite fearless and would grab opportunities. Is that
not fearless? I'm not fearless. I do take opportunities. I'm a massive believer in opportunities come your way for a reason. Take them. If it doesn't work out, you've tried it, but you don't know unless you've tried it. So if you don't try it, you can't complain about it. So, and I was like, so yeah, I actually started off at Art of Cloud as a contractor for 3 months, just to test the waters so they could see what they needed, because they were a growing startup. They'd been up and running 6 or 7 months. They didn't know what they needed fully. And so I was quite happy to get stuck in, do the work, do data loads, do whatever, as well as kind of start guiding them into the operations side. And I was like, I've got all this experience, I'll bring it to the table. Let's work together. And it's just gone from there. And and then we've just grown. And yeah, it's just been a real journey. We've been in 4 different offices because we keep outgrowing them. So we've got a lovely, nice office now. We've seen people come and go. I guess like every business in this COVID times, the staff change, the people change, people's priorities have changed, and it's a very buoyant market.
Very
Buoyant market, and there's a skill shortage. So we've seen people come and go, but always with the kind of like, my job, the main part of my job, I see it, is to give people the opportunity to succeed and grow. If they're not growing, if they're not happy, and if they're not strengthening their careers, if they want to learn something new, I will encourage them, if I give them the space to. That is my job. My job is to make my team successful, because without that, there is no business, is there? And if they're successful, the business is successful. So I very, very much value the trust, the authenticity, the success of my team. And at first I was a bit scared of that, and I didn't like to acknowledge that. I thought it might be seen as being weak, being like pretty kind, just going, yeah, that's, come and talk to me. Yeah, you need some support in this, come and talk to me. I don't micromanage. I very much trust people to do their jobs, and I say that from day one. I was like, I trust you to do your job, but if you're stuck, if you need support, I'm here. The team is here. Check in with us. We have check-ins and stuff. But in terms of kind of day to day, yeah, I want to see my people grow, and that includes letting people go. Because again, like my own journey, you've got to let them go fly, because some might come all the way back.
Yes.
Or just go fly. But do you know what? If you've been part of that journey, you've been part of making them happy and successful, and that's what you want in life, isn't it? So I'm a bit, very much a bit of a hippie on that front.
I don't, from what I can see, I don't think that will steer you very wrong. That sort of culture is very healthy. I think I was just talking to, I think for the last season, I was speaking to Kevin, who's the Gearset CEO, and he was talking about how the culture of very candid feedback is something that drives the product forward. And I think you can only grow when there's real honesty and real safety. It sounds like that's something you built.
And continuing to try and build that trust of just going, we can't all operate at 100% all the time, and people have bad days. And just, a couple of weeks ago, somebody just said, do you know what, Liz, I'm just not feeling it. I just feel a bit weird. And I was just like, do you know what, it's 2:00, go home, get out in the sun, go for a walk, you'll feel better tomorrow. And you just need to be able to do that, don't you? Doesn't, we're doing Salesforce, we're not doing open heart surgery. The world will not implode. So let's be like, just by trusting your team to get their job done, and continuously showing that you trust them, but supporting their needs and knowledge and growth and everything, I think you'll get so much further than just be like, have you done this? Have you done this? Show me exactly. It's just, but that's my nature as a person as well. But hopefully it appears that it's working. So yeah, hopefully.
Especially if you're growing, your testament is the fact that your company is growing, despite the movement.
Yeah.
Trending upwards in terms of the size.
Yeah, and projects, like we do tiny projects, massive projects, probably like yourself, you see like all sorts of people who have no exposure to tech, people who are like, oh, I've just been like given this to sort out, can you help me? To the person who like, oh, I just code in my spare time. And like, and I say this to our team, our job isn't to implement, our job is to consult, our job is to, we're not just technical, we're there to guide them, we're there to get the best experience. And that's like taking all the experiences across I think we're on 270 projects or something like that. Taking all that and just going, oh, do you remember that we did for them? Or do you remember that character we had in that, like internally, obviously, that character we had in that project and how we managed them, and teaching them about the expectation management. is as equally important as the technical skill, as managing your customers, managing how they feel about the project is so important. So yeah, I've actually just gone, I've forgotten the question, but I've waffled again.
No, that's perfectly fine, because we were talking about leadership and culture.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time in the last over a year working with a coach actually and a group of other leaders, mainly women. There's 5 women and 1 guy in our cohort, just talking about authentic leadership and how it's okay to lead by your own values and not ask people to, and if people infringe on those values, just making sure you've got your boundaries in place, and dishonesty. And it's so important to me that they can trust that I will support them, but that trust is a two-way thing. All those things are so important to me. So by admitting to myself they're important, and by putting it on paper and going, these are my core values, I'm going to work to them, it's great. Yeah, I definitely have learned a lot from actually investing something in myself as well, and then that has kind of invested into the company and improved things.
Have you ever trusted and found that that it didn't work out for you?
Yes, obviously, yeah. There's people you've placed your trust in, and you believe they're on the same page as you, but they're not. They've not got the same goals. I think in business, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard not to become friends with people. And I do, they do become your friends. And when you're so small, they kind of like your family. You spend more time with them. And then, so yeah, you do. And then if your trust has been let down over, it might be just over one incident, but you're just like, But what I have learned is that by going, actually, you've let me down and broken my trust. Whereas 5 years ago, I wouldn't have that conversation because I didn't like the confrontation. But now, through growth, through allowing myself to grow and kind of just going, it's okay to say to somebody, do you know what, you've really upset me and broken my trust there. And this is why. I'm not expecting you to do anything about it, but I'm just letting you know that has affected how I feel about this situation is a massive step forwards. And that's what again I'm trying to kind of bring to the table, that people aren't going to be perfect, people are going to annoy you, but being and on 99% of the time you can carry on, can't you? And you can just either get over it or live with it. But sometimes you have to say, you've actually really upset me, and for these reasons. And I think it takes bravery to do that, but people respect you for doing it. And I think they think more of you for then kind of festering away in the corner going, oh, they've broken my trust, I'm never going to trust them again. Rather than just go, do you know what, you've broken my trust, we can either move on from it and it not happen again, or we need to make a decision about whether we carry on. So yeah, feels like it's all about it's massive. It's actually interesting talking to you, because it's all things that have all been going on in my head that I'm kind of articulating to you. Go, all this is like, it is growth. Growing a business isn't just growing the money, not growing the financials. It's not just growing the turnover. It's growing everything, isn't it? And part of that is the culture and the trust and the people. And yeah, and I realised talking to you how far we've come.
Sounds like, definitely just looking at your journey, how far you get to every leg of your journey has been massive in terms of your growth and experience in your current space. So it sounds like you start on a right foot by laying down a foundation for a great culture, honesty, transparency, authenticity. Yeah, just being authentic. What have you found to be the biggest challenges of running a small practice?
People. you have to adapt for everybody's personalities, ways of working, different perceptions of what is a solution, and because I'm not by nature like, well, you're doing it my way or the highway, I think I listen to people and then like take it on board, and so that takes time. And and that is not just within the team, but it's in projects as well. You'll do projects that you love and are dead easy. You'll have done this. There's some projects and you're like, this is brilliant, and everybody's answering the right questions and everybody's engaged. And then you've got the projects where it's like blood from a stone. It's like, you said you wanted it next week, but you still won't answer my email. And I think so. It's all around the people, and managing that people and the expectation is the toughest bit, because the technical parts we're skilled up on, aren't we? That's our job, that's what we know. And you can, if you don't know the exact answer, you can go and learn it. But sometimes you just can't. The people's behaviour is like the tricky bit. You can't guess how somebody's going to react, can you? You know, I think you'll have done this. You'll have got into a meeting thinking, oh my gosh, we've got to deliver some really bad news. It's going to be horrible. And then they're actually, oh yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll just deal with it. You've come up with an answer. You've got a proposal for a solution. So don't worry about it. Where you think you're going to get absolutely told off, don't you? So yeah, I think that's probably one of the hardest things is people. And I guess the more people you have, the more dynamics you have.
100%.
And the more like kind of, it's that, I guess for me, it's that going from that intimacy of just being 3, 4, 5. It's hard, you can't, it's just not practical. And so you're kind of taking a step back and a step back and a step back, but while trying to maintain that culture of growth and trust. So, yeah.
I think there'll be a next challenge when you get to a particular tipping point size. I've been in companies that's growth and grown, and I think I was in this company that was growing very quickly, and was talking to the COO as well, and how badly they wanted to keep hold of the culture, and that is not possible. I think just understanding that different people adds, but what we could keep the same is the values. Really understanding the culture will shift around it, people will shift, the things that you like to do, maybe, you know, for a spell it's all ping pong, and then for another spell it's all scavenger hunt, and maybe for another spell it's something slightly different as people come and go. But I think the mistake that, not mistake, but you know, the wanting to hold so deeply to a amorphous blob, it was just painful, I think. And when things were changing, you know, you could feel your heart break. So, oh, you know,
and it's hard. It's like your teenage children, isn't it? You've got to let them grow and be a bit more independent, because you can't be with them all the time. But actually, quite interestingly, we've, like, about 9 months ago, because we could see the growth, we sat down and wrote our company's values, and as a team, and we like, what are our core values, what are the non-negotiables, what are they, and we kind of sat down and worked through that as a team, and that's what we worked to. Yeah. Share those.
What are your values and your non-negotiables?
Probably the phraseology is it's do the right thing. Always do the right. That's our core one. That's the biggest one we live by, is like, be that to your colleagues, be that to your clients, be that to the cleaner, be that to whoever. Do the right thing by everybody, and so that comes back to honesty, integrity, open communication, and it kind of reflects a lot of what I've been talking about. Have the difficult conversations, say the truth. You know, I'm sure you've done this. Go to somebody, why are you back? This is not the right tool for you. Why? And being able to say to a customer, going, oh, I really want it, it's all shiny and dancing, you're like, it's not right for you. And being able to say to somebody who's going, oh, I want to go off and do this cert, you're like, okay, well, why do you want to do that cert? Is it to get another cert, or because you have a genuine passion, because it will impact on your life and in terms of time and everything? And then they're like, oh yeah. And just doing the right thing by people day in, day out is our core value.
Amazing. I think it's really easy to remember as well because it all encompasses.
Yeah, it does. And it took a long time to kind of to get it in that one phrase, because there was like lots of like truth and honesty and integrity and expectation management and things like that, and being kind, and but it kind of does encompass do the right thing. And you would hope that if you do the right thing, people will do the right thing by you. True in life, isn't it?
I'm loving it. I think I want to be mindful of your time, but just before we close, I'm, pretty blown away by your career. But if you were able to go back to time and talk to the 15-year-old you, what would you say? What would you say to her?
Oh, wow. Just go with it, because go with the opportunities. I've taken, like, I travelled and then that was cut short. I did the path to go and work at the Ministry of Agriculture. That changed. I ended up working for the IT company. I left there when I had my children. Read into that what you will. And so I set up my own business. And just go with it, because everything is a journey. Who knows where Art of Car is going to take us? I know it's a good journey for now. I don't expect to be doing it in 20 years' time, possibly because I'll be too old. But do you know what I mean? It's like, go with it, enjoy it, and then,
So it sounds like there are no regrets.
Massively.
Yeah, exactly. So you've done everything.
Because I wouldn't be who I am without all those things. If I hadn't made the mistakes, if I hadn't come back from traveling early, I wouldn't have met my husband, things like that. So it's just that kind of fate's journey of my life of like, this is how it's meant to be. And, and people will be on it, and people will be on it for part of the journey, people on it for the whole journey, and people, will go along with me. And that's what I kind of embrace in my life, really. It's just like, it is a journey. And it's not going to stop being a journey unless I stop it.
Exactly. You know what? I'm just going to say something. I think your LinkedIn profile just hides so much. It's not.
I know.
It's so understated, and I just needed to just delve into it with you, and I'm really glad I have. So, thank you very, very much for spending the time and just sharing all the things that you've learned along the way. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to me talk.